started as a graphic designer and wish someone could give you a cheat code so you could jump ahead a few levels and not have every decision be so hard. Well, I have been there. I have been a freelance graphic designer for 15 years, and I had to figure out a lot of stuff the wrong way. And I wish someone could have just given me a little manual of all the things that they have learned. So I am here, and I would love to tell you some things that I very much had to struggle through, and I wish that someone could have handed me. So here are 10 lessons that I have learned in my 15 years as a graphic designer that I would love to give to you. All right, first off, it's okay to position yourself as the expert, even if you don't feel like one, even if you're just starting out. The thing that I didn't realize when I got started is that no matter how old someone is or how established they are in business, most people who are working with a graphic designer, it's actually the first time that they're doing that. So they don't really know the process any more than you do. And that's kind of a good thing. If you come in with confidence and lay out your process and say, okay, here's what working with me looks like, and here's the process that we're going to go through, almost everyone will actually feel comfortable and take a step back and breathe, at least silently. And you won't run into people feeling like they need to take control and kind of lead you along, and you'll have less problems down the road with feeling like you need to kind of rein in a client that is just wheeling and dealing commands because they're not really sure what this process needs to look like. Most business owners are used to talking to people who work for them. And you are consulting. You are an independent entity, and you have a process that you are taking them through. You're guiding them through. You are Yoda. And even if you're just starting out, that's a really helpful thing to know. And the more you kind of take that mantle on, the more you will be able to guide every step of the way, and it'll make the whole process better. Trust me. Secondly, this is your process. So that means that it can look kind of how you want it to. Are there things that would actually make it a more pleasurable experience for you? It doesn't have to look one way. Do you like working in certain hours and you don't want to be available all of the time? Tell them that. Put that in writing. Make that part of the whole setup process. If you like communicating by text or in Slack or in some way, and you don't want to give someone your phone number and just have the ability for them to call you anytime, put how you communicate in the process in the actual proposal that you give them, so they know from the get-go, okay, I have a client portal and here's how I go through the process with you. Define the terms that will make the experience good for you. And it doesn't have to look like everyone else's. Maybe you want to do a certain set of revisions, or maybe you want to have a different back and forth when you're taking an intake. You define the process. It is yours, and this is your business, and you have permission to do that. Isn't that cool? Thirdly, the more clear your process is, the less headaches you will have. Sometimes when you're in this space, you know what terms mean, you know how things go, and you understand when you say, I need you to click the form and submit it to me, what that actually means. Maybe you're working with someone in their 60s, and this is the first time that they've done some form of digital communication, and they don't actually know. So my best advice to you is work on your processes and make them really, really, really clear. Have an FAQ section where you answer questions that you're getting a lot. Take maybe an older family member through your process. Ask them to sit down and you show them all of the material and you explain it to them as though they're a client, and look for the places where they're confused. If they don't quite get what they're supposed to do next, your clients aren't going to either. And that's where you need to refine. Be clear on your process and you will have so much less frustration. Make it really easy to work with you. One of the biggest things that keeps someone from signing up, from going on board, is that people are kind of lazy or they're busy. And if you have too complicated of a form, or the process of just finding out what your rates are is so much that someone isn't going to click the button, you're going to lose that person as a potential client. You want to make the process of, I found you, I'm interested in you, to let's get on a call, as streamlined and friction-free as possible, so that you can get in front of someone and actually understand what they need and get them through the process. So really focus on making that front end as easy as humanly possible for someone. Some people ask for someone to put together a whole mood board before they talk to them. That's awesome, and it would certainly make the process go faster, but the odds of someone taking the time to do that before they even talk to you are so low that you're kind of killing a bunch of potential leads for conversations that you could be having with clients. Make it easy, make it simple for them. You'll have more conversations. In the same vein, sometimes more than one person needs to weigh in. If you're working with a company, maybe there are a few people that have to sign off, and maybe they're not all on the same call. Maybe they're not able to come to a meeting. If you can have a client portal, if you can have a space where you can give people things and make it really easy for everyone who needs to weigh in on that thing, able to do so, you'll cut down feedback time and you'll be able to move the process through, rather than sitting for a month and a half because the person that needed to talk to it about it wasn't on the meeting and they didn't know and they didn't get the thing, and you can't keep the process going. Make it really easy for everyone who needs to give you feedback to do so. Teach people how to give feedback in a way that is useful to you. This is a bit of a hard one, but sometimes people feel like they need to give critique or they need to give edits because they want to feel like they've been part of the process, and they can't just go in your perfect world like, yep, great, awesome, let's go. They need to have some back and forth so it feels like they're actually contributing to this process. And again, most people have never done this before. So if they're working with a designer, they might not know the words that you do of what it means to give an edit in a way that's actually useful. Part of this process is kind of therapy. Maybe someone doesn't really know what it is they actually like, and they are saying, oh, I think I like, modern industrial, but they don't really know what that means. It can be helpful to give people visuals so they have something to work off of, or teach them a little bit when you're giving feedback. This is the kind of structure that's useful so that I know how to make the best edits that will get you to your end faster. You kind of need to guide people along the process. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of clients saying, I don't know, make it pop more. If anyone ever has known what those words mean, I would love to hear from them. But you can get to where they're trying to go if you help them have the words to give you the critique that you need so that you can get the results for them. This is kind of a teaching process. Okay, this one is actually serious. Under no circumstances should you ever start work without a signed contract. I know contracts are scary, and probably as you're getting started, you're working with friends, or you have a friend of a friend that you've been a referral, and it's kind of a word of mouth thing. I totally get it. I've totally been there. They don't actually have to be that scary. There are great resources that people have made for freelancers and creatives that have businesses that you can buy a starting point and fill in. Spend a little bit of money to actually have a real contract that you can edit yourself, not a form, nothing on ChatGPT, but is actually a real legally binding contract. It can be plain English, but it's important that you put in a few things that will actually protect you. No matter what, it needs to cover what happens if someone is not happy with the work. What happens if you don't finish getting paid? What happens if, for whatever reason, one or both parties wants to stop at any point along the process? What if they go over their allotted revision? Who owns the files at the end of the day? Are you allowed to use that work for promotional purposes in your portfolio? That really needs to be in writing so that you're protected. This is all the fun stuff that is worth spending a little bit of time on up front. And then once you have that, all it takes is a few basic tweaks from project to project. You'll feel more like a big adult and ready to go, and it will just help so much moving forward. Please, just trust me on this one. I could tell you some stories. Similarly, it doesn't matter how you want to structure deposits. That can look a lot of different ways depending on the industry you're in and what you want to do, but you do need to have one. Take a deposit before you start work. For whatever reason, something happens mentally when someone has actually given you over money. They take the project more seriously, even if you're giving them a really, really reduced rate. Take a $50 deposit, whatever it is. It makes a difference in the whole process moving forward. And if you get started before that happens, it's really hard to chase someone down for money. I promise. It's not fun, but you can make it a really streamlined part of the process that feels automated. And then it doesn't feel like you're just running around sending them invoice after invoice. Start with a deposit and everyone has bought in and they take the project seriously moving forward. On the same end, How you close out really matters. When you're in the process of doing a bunch of revisions and going back and forth, sometimes these things can drag on for a really long time. And it's easy for a project to then just kind of fizzle out. And then it feels like what really even happened? Have a meeting, have a wrap up. Walk them through everything you've done. Remind them of all of the great work that you've done and show them through the whole process. Walk them through all of the files. Show them the actual folder structure of whatever you're giving them. If you have some sort of a branding guide or a book that you're giving them or a goodbye packet, walk them through it so that they can really feel like, sometimes when you have these digital goods, it's hard to remember when you've been working on this for months what you actually paid for, what the thing really is. So walk them through the whole thing so that they walk away thinking like, wow, that was really great. I love the whole process. I can really see what I got out of that. But don't stop there. If your project involves giving any sort of assets to a client, no matter what industry you're in, film a video of you walking through the process of accessing them. Show them how you use the login information, where the files are stored, how they interact with them, what they need to do in the future. Just film yourself. Use a wonderful service like Loom to just film yourself a quick little video and then put that in the same place as where they'll have access to all of their files. That way, should you ever need to give that to a new person, if someone leaves the company and they need to train a new person who's going to be working with you, or someone else is going to be using this information, they're not coming back to you in 6 months saying, how did we actually do that? Where's the login information? That training is evergreen. It's not just in that one meeting you did. You have a video that can go from person to person. And now you've given them a real asset that they can run with without you needing to do as much back and forth. Similarly, write an actual step-by-step instruction of how they get access to all of their files, where everything lives, how they deal with it. Have it in writing, have it in a video. You can use a template for yourself, so it's not hard to do every time. But if you go that one little step, you'll have so much less back and forth in the future when they're working with a new person and they don't know where anything is. And then finally, in that same vein, when all of it is over and you've gone through your meeting and you've given all the instruction and you've shown everything and they're super happy with it, then you say, great, the final invoice will be sent over to you, and then I will send over all of the final files. And then, and only when you have received final payment, do you actually send all of the files that you have just shown them. Hold on to them until you actually get paid. It might seem like a semantic thing, it might seem like you're holding something hostage or it feels untrustworthy, but it's just worth making that step to say, okay, here's everything, now we'll have the invoice, and then I will send your final files. You just never know where things are, and sometimes things get lost. Most people are good people, but they get busy and they get distracted and they're working on other things, and they might forget for another 3 months to send you your payment because the project's done, they've gotten what they needed, and they're already off putting out the next fire. Even good people can forget to pay you. So do this in that order, and you've just taken away that problem. Finally, my last piece of advice is something I really wish I had taken for myself a lot sooner. When someone is finished and they've just seen all the great work you've done and they're still kind of in that high, they're thinking really wonderfully about you and they're happy about all the great work you've done together, right then, make it really, really, really easy for them to leave you a review or give you a referral, suggest you to another friend of theirs. Make a super simple button for them to click to film a little video of themselves giving you a testimonial or write a little blurb for you. Make that process so streamlined for them that you can grab that wonderful feedback while they're still really in that moment and thinking about it. And you don't have to come back in 6 months when you're making your portfolio and saying, hey, could you give me a quote about working with me? Because by then they're off to another thing. Grab those things in the moment, put them in a little folder so that you have them if you ever need client referrals or examples, you are ready to go. Also, it can just be nice to hear how it went for someone. It can be gratifying after the long slog of a process. So those were 10 tips that I have learned in the last 15 years. I've got a bunch more, so let me know if this is fun for anyone and you want to keep them coming. We can keep on going till the cows come home. Hope that was fun, and I look forward to hanging out with you again. ChatGPT, yeah. ChatGPT.